Visit Avery.com, Avary, for the most up-to-date news and information on Team Avery.
Avery, 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 Avery.
The Video Archives podcast with Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery is back for season 2. Head on over to patreon.com/videoarchives to get ad-free exclusive content and bonus episodes. This is the Gala Show. I'm your reporter on the beat, Gala Avery. On this episode, you guys know my connection to VHS, and on today's show, we are talking about a new documentary that is hitting the screens all about the video store. Alex Ross Perry's Videoheaven tells the story of the huge impact the video store had on American culture. With narration by Maya Hawke, this documentary walks the audience through how the store changed the way we interact with media forever. Because I know my Gen Z out there may never have been to a video store, and they might not know, so this is kind of important information. Today on the mic, I have filmmaker Alex Ross Perry and editor Clyde Foley. Hey, Alex. Hey, Clyde.
Thanks, Gala.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for coming to hang out and for watching this and being interested in it. You were top of the list when our mutual friend Joe Lynch watched the film and said, I'd love to send this to some people who I think would like it as well. And you were right up there.
Yeah, I remember we emailed like way back. I don't know how long ago that was, but we emailed about the movie. And I took a little peek, and then I took another peek, obviously. I watched the full thing, the finished version. And I remember emailing about it, and it's so exciting when a movie finally comes to light. And the editing is so important, so I'm really glad to have Clyde here, because when people see the movie, they'll understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, we should, maybe by way of explaining something of what it is, so people aren't like, why is this so well edited? Why it just sounds like a documentary. It's an essay film that I spent about 10 years making, five and a half of which were with Clyde, about the history of video stores told entirely through their depictions in film and television. And we have about 150 excerpts, examples, clips, and then about 40 commercials, news reports that basically the experience of watching Videoheaven to us is the experience of spending 3 hours in a video store. And depending on where you live, this might be the only way you could have that experience.
So before we bring up the topic for today, I have a question for you. Without a video store now, because, I'm lucky I have Be Kind Video in Burbank that I go to all the time. But how do you guys discover movies and what to watch?
It's a fine question. We should also mention, maybe you don't, Clyde he does programming on Criterion Channel.
Yes, and also I know you did a Brad Dourif programming, and he's like one of my favorite actors of all time. So.
Oh, same. This guy's total hero of mine.
Oh my God, he lives in Oxnard, and one day I want to run into him. I hope so. So it's my goal.
Yeah. So this kind of programming that Clyde is participating in, I feel like for us in New York, for 20 years, that's how you saw things. You would just kind of rely on whoever gets to program a series at one rep house or another. And certainly for us, and for me starting in the mid 2000s, you would just discover by saying oh, well, there's this 4-week Morricone series at Film Forum. I'll skip everything I've seen and I'll see everything that's rare, dubs of Italian crime films that have never screened before. And Discovery was always like that in conjunction with stores. And now I guess it's just kind of migrated. I feel like programming, with some exceptions, is not, at least in New York, not geared towards that level of exhuming oddities and total rare movies that everyone in the theater has no idea what they're in store for. So to me, I guess I just kind of use my own infrastructure or just look for recommendations. I spend a lot of time on the internet just looking for things to watch and thinking. And then, of course, I get all excited if I find a used a tape of something that seems great, or Severin puts out a Blu-ray of a movie I've never heard of, but their packaging makes it seem unmissable, and then I buy it sight unseen.
What about you, Clyde?
I mean, I second Alex here when he speaks of the importance of programming, and specifically the importance of like New York repertory programming, because there's just so basically most of the movies I've watched in the last, I don't know, 15 years have just been like in repertory. I watch stuff at home, but honestly, like it's increasingly rare to watch stuff at home, and then when I do, it's stuff that's been recommended, or like I'm going through like some sort of like individual rabbit hole, or a lot of times like I end up watching stuff because I'm programming something, like it's like last year when I just did like the deep dive into Brad Dourif's career, and it's like, all right, I guess I'm watching all these Brad Dourif movies now. I'm gonna claim the role of like resident Brad Dourif expert. So it's like a combination of like, yeah, like New York repertory, and also just like whatever like rabbit hole you fall into.
I love that. I think it's so important. So many of my friends get like what they call streaming fatigue, where they're just scrolling endlessly and they have no idea what to watch. And you think the algorithm is going to be giving you something that you want, and really it doesn't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the human touch is really the most important factor in that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like I'm always amazed when Clyde says he doesn't watch stuff at home. His house is piled with DVDs and Blu-rays. I think for me, like when the pandemic started, there was nothing to do. My wife and I just got into the habit of every single night. Previously you would maybe be going out, or you'd be going to see a movie, or doing something else, God forbid. But we just got into the habit immediately in 2020 of every night we just watched something, and we would alternate. All right, I picked last night, you picked tonight. And then because our daughter was born during the pandemic, that's still basically the routine. And when she finally goes to sleep, we're still just watching a movie every day. Although now some nights the movie gets split in half because we're too tired. But we watch so much at home because going out is much less of an option. We don't live in the city anymore, so there's even less to do. But I don't find fatigue in it, mostly because I guess I sort of know what I'm looking for, at least broadly speaking, and I can always kind of seasonally curate things for us into silos of like, there's movies we only need to watch in the summer. Last summer we watched Stand By Me, which my wife had never seen. I'm not going to watch that movie any other season. It's illegal to watch that movie.
Oh God,
I'm July or August.
I watch movies anytime. I don't care if it's a Christmas movie. I'll watch it in like March. I'm not.
So crazy to me.
know.
Yeah, this is something It's just not because that's blasphemy, but just because it's easier if you put the guardrails around what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you just kind of lock in on like, all right, September 20th, we're watching horror for 6 weeks. Let's do it.
It's funny. My friends totally think it's blasphemy. I get told all the time, Gala, how could you watch a Christmas movie in the middle of summer? And I'm like, well, it's what I had in front of me, and it's what I felt like watching. But
that is dicey. I'm intrigued by you doing that, but there's no wrong way.
There's no wrong way, but maybe there's a right way though. So as always, my guests get to bring their topic to the mic. So Alex, Clyde, why don't you tell us what your topic is and why you decided to choose it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be self-serving, but I feel like because of the film that we've made, our topic can be, or at least something that I'd love to talk with you about or hear your opinions on, is the idea of, our movie is about stores as spaces to experience movies. And now that obviously you have maybe half a dozen good stores in Los Angeles, but I guess to me, like, the idea of movies is living in a space. And right, you obviously have access to some of the best repertory theaters in the country. And to me, there's such a link between the identity of a space, be it a store or a theater, and the types of things you get there, right? Like for us in New York, you always know what kind of movie you'd be getting at Anthology Film Archives versus Lincoln Center. And this goes back into video stores where you would know you go to X store for this sort of thing, but if you need like Italian horror or Hong Kong bootleg tapes, you have to go over to this other place. And I love the idea of talking about or thinking about like your memories or feelings on how physical spaces manifest your viewing identity, because this is something that I find very intuitive. And I think most people now, everything's maybe a little bit mixed together, at least, outside of your resources in Los Angeles. And I don't know if that exists so much anymore.
But before we get into the topic, it's time for a commercial break. Backed by popular demand, the Video Archives merch store is up and running. Get your favorite t-shirts, hats, notebooks, stickers, and more at videoarchivesmerch.com. You know me. I write all my notes in the Notes on Cinema notebook, the Gala edition, of course. Check out videoarchivesmerch.com to get yours today. Hey, thanks so much for being a loyal listener. If you want to keep up with me off mic, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Gala Avery. And we're back. So we're going to be talking about the importance of physical spaces today. I have 30 minutes on my clock and our time starts now. Okay, so Alex knows that I grew up in Ojai because we had a conversation beforehand. For those of you that don't know, it's like this really small farming town, or it used to be. Now it's like an influencer haven. But growing up, we had one video store in town, which was a Blockbuster. And my experiences growing up were actually not renting DVD rentals from there because my dad had a huge collection. But I used to rent video games from Blockbuster. So my initial thing at the video store was video games, but you guys kind of were alive during the boom of it.
In a way, yeah. And Clyde will mention he's from Alaska, so he was not.
Wow, the video store must have been really important though up there. Like if you had like one video store.
Well, we had multiple video stores because, I was still coming, it's like, let's say like,
yeah.
I was born in the 80s, but like the 90s was really like the decade that I just became like a human being aware of the world and also just like aware of movies. So that was still a time where like even like a small town in the middle of nowhere, Alaska, had multiple video stores. And you knew even then like what you could get at certain video stores. So I don't know, it's like, it sounds unimaginable now, but like even in like 1990 Soldotna, Alaska, there were still video stores basically across the street from each other. Yeah, I miss it. That's why this movie exists.
Wow, that's kind of wild to think about.
Yeah, and we love, anyone who was serious about renting stuff knows that at some point you maybe graduate from the Blockbuster, which is perhaps your family's default, to needing to go elsewhere for the other things that you want. And as we cover in the film, there's certain types of movies Blockbuster wouldn't carry. Of course, they wouldn't carry pornography. Clyde, who worked at Troma, knows a lot about how Blockbuster wouldn't carry Troma films or unrated films. And the idea is that at some point you simply must branch out. You, in the same way that a film lover who maybe, and this is certainly my story, in high school when I was growing up, you would just go to the multiplex and see everything that came out. But then at some point you need more, and now you have to live in a city with a repertory scene and go to Film Forum or Anthology or MoMA every single day because the multiplex offerings are no longer enough for you. And the if we're talking here with you about spaces, that means we're talking about film consumption as an active pursuit, right? It was something that for you, even getting video games, like it got you off of the couch into a car, into a physical space where you interacted with other people, choices were made, and you committed to what you were choosing.
Yeah, and even more than that, like my little town had a single screen theater called the Ojai Playhouse, which had burned down and then was going to get turned into a restaurant for a while, and then they just actually reopened it up as a repertory theater.
I believe Videoheaven is playing there.
I think so. And that's a shout out to the Ojai Playhouse because I went on many first dates there as like a middle schooler and actually going there. And I remember it would be like 115 degrees out during the summer. And you would go to the theater and just be so happy. You're in the air conditioning. You're seeing a movie. You're with your friends. And that's even like small town life for me.
August 10th. Ojai Playhouse.
August 10th at the Ojai Playhouse. Go see it where I saw The Hunger Games and Step Brothers and whatever else I saw as a kid.
But even that's amazing to me when like a place that you're saying you associate with like the mainest of mainstream could in their programming make space for something that is a 3-hour essay film for nerds and psychotic people who want to think about video stores. right? It could very well be playing next to Superman if this theater still shows what you grew up seeing. And that level of like saturation of just getting things is so important, because like what's something anybody on streaming choosing a movie could do that nobody who got in their car and drove to a video store and put $2 down on the counter would do? Turn something off after 15 minutes. Right? You're not going to watch a movie for less time than it took you to get home from getting it. You're not going to go to a movie theater, pay $10, $15, $20 and walk out after 20 minutes. You used to, because of the physical space that was connected to the selection of what you were doing, your commitment was so much stronger than it ever has been since then. And while this isn't necessarily what we talk about in the movie, it's something that somebody like yourself certainly understands from the way you watch things now.
For sure. I mean, I have walked out of a movie 20 minutes in, but they offer refunds if you go to the right theater. So what was I
it?
went with my mom, not the newest Jurassic Park movie, but like the one right before. And I went with my mom, and there was just too much like animal screaming in it for her, and she just did not like it. And so we did leave the theater for that. But I think the only other movie I've ever walked out of was E.T. when I was like 4 years old, because when E.T. died, I was like bawling my eyes out. I didn't understand he was coming back to life. And I hold that memory with me forever, though. Like, talk about spaces and like memories of audiences and stuff. Like, I know E.T. comes back to life. It's a great movie.
Yeah, well, the movie was pretty much over at that point. My daughter did the same thing when we went to see Lilo and Stitch in June. We're like, things look grim for Stitch, like right at the end of the second act. And she was just like, it's time to leave. And I was like, the movie's basically over.
It's like, who cares? So tell me about like your local video stores. Because Clyde, you mentioned like growing up, like, okay, you're in Alaska. And like, did you have like one place that like you always hung out at?
I probably spent the most time at the video store that I could like bike to, and that's probably like a 20-minute bike ride from my house. And I would just sort of like wander the store. I'm like 10 years old, just like going around, like seeing like what tapes are looking good. But I don't. We didn't have like a video store in my hometown that was like as good as like a Kim's or anything like that. It was all like,
I don't know, but okay, I'm gonna be honest. Even though I have the Video Archives like brand behind me, I don't know if anything's as good as Kim's.
Scarecrow.
Like, Kim's
Scarecrow's quite good.
Okay, so we have like Scarecrow,
Scarecrow's huge,
Kim's,
but
I would say like in the top 10 meccas of of all time video, Video Archives must be up there. Of course, when did they close? I feel like I've listened to 100 episodes. I've never actually heard this date.
I think it's like 91 maybe.
Well, that can't be true, because we have the scene in it of the Reservoir Dogs video release.
There was like a weird transition period though, like where like the owner, they moved stores several times. So like 91 might have been when they moved the store. But I don't know, because it had to be after Quentin and Roger made Pulp Fiction, like shortly after. So it had to be like 90. I don't know, actually.
Yeah. Well, regardless, the store was taken off the board because Kim's had another 10 years of acquiring stuff to build up. And you just also had to have a store that was unafraid of legality. My browsing in Scarecrow, I didn't see a lot of stuff that just screams illegal, at least not presently. But Kim's was, and that collection is great, and those things are few and far between. We certainly had nothing like that in Philadelphia, but I don't know if there is much else like that.
No, but you had TLA. I mean, like TLA is notable, and
that was definitely my spot. I mean, the TLA on Lancaster Avenue in Ardmore, and there were maybe 10 TLAs throughout Philadelphia, and then one in New York. But TLA was very eye-opening because, as I'm saying, to me, I was getting new releases at Blockbuster and the classics, which I needed to see. And then when I need to do every Cronenberg movie, I need to go to a store that has a Cronenberg shelf.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really fascinating because I've seen, obviously, all of the Video Archives tapes. Quentin has them in his house. But then he also absorbed the Eddie Brandt collection.
Yeah, that's massive. That store was crazy.
That's the thing, and it's huge. And every now and then I'm in the wild and I see Eddie Brandt's tapes that didn't go to Quentin. And I'm like, oh my God, there's even more out there. It's insane. It's crazy.
Yeah, but a lot of stuff at Eddie Brandt's was like double features of public domain noir movies taped off of TV.
And like TV episodes upon episodes upon episodes of like stuff that I would never think anyone would want to collect. And then I find people that collect specifically the Eddie Brandt's tapes. It's really interesting to me because it's the nostalgia factor.
Certainly. And to me, like, that's a great example. Like, never having lived in LA, but I would go out there and I'd want to go to these spaces. The difference of going to Vidius, which was then in Santa Monica and is now in Eagle Rock, where our screening is on the 6th, a big, well-lit space, Santa Monica beach adjacent light. Then you go to Eddie Brandt's and the ceiling feels like it's about 10 feet tall. The place is dark as hell. Strange, mysterious objects on the counter, handwritten labels on every tape. And you're like, this is just a different kind of experience. And it's very easy to imagine being a local and you're like, I know what I'm looking for and I know I need to go to Eddie Brandt's to get that. Because I'm looking for something that feels like I'm pulling it out of a musty basement, not a beautiful, well-lit store.
It's also so special, like when you talk about being a local and like going to your local video store. My dad and I yesterday were at lunch with Morgan Langley, who's John Langley's son. And the reason why my dad knew John was because John he started Cops. But like the reason why he knew him before that was because he rented from the video store. And then he knew Morgan as like a 10-year-old who would come in and like they'd rent to the family. And so it's just like really special that these connections with locals that would come in all the time are maintained throughout the years.
And that's the thing. I mean, you can have that experience with an employee at a movie theater, right? I mean, every one of us in New York who would see 10 movies a week, double features, three of those days, you would know every employee, you know everyone, and half of them would be your friends. And while spectatorship and film consumption has obviously evolved and migrated into places like the Criterion Channel or Letterboxd and other things, that physical face-to-face thing, which we show over and over again in Videoheaven, I mean, yes, I'm sure you could tell me like, oh, every regular at the Vista knows each other and they know the employees, but like that's rare. We know that that's not common.
Rare. It is. I mean, like for example, like the Video Archive Cinema Club that's held with inside the Vista is like a little 20-seat theater that they have.
This I'm dying to visit when I'm on my LA trip. I'm hoping to get in there for whatever's playing.
It's programmed mostly. I mean, Unruly Jules McLean, of course, is like overseeing the entire theater, but Matt Landsman, who also does programming at Be Kind in Burbank, he does the programming for the Video Archive Cinema Club. And Matt has done, to his credit, such an amazing job of fostering a community within the 20-seat theater that you get like the same people that like. I don't want to put it on blast, but like Jack Black is a regular there, and you get to go and you sit in the theater, and I think it's an amazing experience. I love the micro cinemas that have been popping up all over LA.
Yeah, we don't have a ton of that in New York, or if we do, it's after my time where I had nothing but time on my hands. But that sort of intimacy is very valuable. So while we do have this film, which is in many ways a 3-hour elegy for the video store, we know video stores exist. Of course, they exist about 98% less than they did when Kim's and Video Archives were popping off. They still exist, but what our point isn't they're gone forever and there aren't any. Our point is this used to be one of the most easily identifiable places of human interaction in American society, and you could put a scene in a video store on every single NBC sitcom, and not one of the 20 million viewers would look at it and go, what the hell is happening in this scene? Whereas now a sitcom, if you had a sitcom set in LA and the characters on the show walked in to Be Kind and they were just renting a movie, I think most people would go, what on earth is going on in this scene? What are these people doing?
I love the idea of that because people actually do, and Be Kind's a great example because that's like I would consider, even though I'm not a Burbank local, like that's my quote unquote local store, because that's the store I choose to go to in Los Angeles. But like they get people that come and rent DVDs every single week. It's pretty spectacular. They come in like clockwork. They come in with their girlfriend. They pick 4 movies. It's a weekly rental, and then they come back. And if I'm there every week, I see them come in and deposit the movies. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah, and it's still very active. When this movie I had that just came out, Pavements, was doing screenings at the New Art, and every day I got there a little bit early, and I spent about 45 minutes, 3 days in a row in Cinephile. And it was packed. There was tons of people there, young people. So I'm not saying like watch our movie and think like video stores are gone forever, but it is now it is now a niche activity on the level of going to see repertory films.
I think it's even more more niche than that, I think.
Oh, it is.
I agree. It's even more niche because, case in point, like New York still has many repertory theaters, but we don't have any like viable like video stores the way that we used to. I mean, you can rent from the Kim's collection.
Sure, we have it all set up. You'll come visit when you're in town.
And it's great, but it's different from going to a video store and just being like, I'm picking up a new release today. Like, where is I can't even name a new release right now.
The Minecraft movie.
Like, it's a different experience now. The Minecraft movie, sure. But it's just like, that is something that I'm envious about with Los Angeles, is because it seems like LA still has multiple viable video stores, and that's just something that New York doesn't have anymore.
It's pretty interesting, but I'm not equating the two. It's more just like everyone knows what it means to go to the multiplex, and everyone knows what it means to stream movies on Netflix or iTunes. But the alternative to that, which is what real movie lovers want, it exists. We all know it exists. We're not saying it doesn't. We're just saying, as for the purposes of the 150 some odd clips we have in Videoheaven, we're just saying this used to be as identifiable an activity for people as grocery shopping, going to the laundromat, doing any number of routine errands that you did maybe twice a week. And now to depict it would be incongruous with contemporary life.
I mean, I also think it's interesting though, because I think a lot about like physical media and the things that we own. And it's like, when you go over to a girl's house and you see what kind of movies that she has on display, you kind of know a little bit about her. If I go to a guy's house and I see that he has Requiem for a Dream, as like the one movie he has, I know maybe I'm not going to get along with that guy in a romantic sense. It's too bleak of a movie for me, or maybe it'll spark a discussion between us. But when you own nothing and you have nothing to like media wise to reflect yourself, I think it's a really interesting thing. And I think that's one of the reasons why the video stores are kind of popping back up around Los Angeles, is because people want to show off who they are, and they want to do it through the things that they love.
And we're seeing this now with what I would call younger people. They're probably your age or roughly there.
Or younger.
Who really, there really is a lot of buying going on. And I'm seeing a lot of people who I would say are probably between 20 and 30 purchasing a huge amount of physical media, not to have what Clyde and I and our psychotic friends and your dad and colleagues would consider like, this is my at-home library. Yeah. But there are people, they just want to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 or so of essential pieces of their artistic identity in plain view at all times. And sometimes this means people buying a VHS of a movie they might not even be able to play, but the object of it out on their shelf at home, as you were saying, is an advertisement for their taste. And it just says, not only do I love this movie and I love movies, but I love it enough to display it the way, I'm not going to watch it every day, the way you don't read your favorite book maybe more than once every 5 or 10 years. But I need this there the way I want to hang up a beautiful piece of art that I found so I can look at it every day. You don't need art on your wall. You want it there because it says something about who you are.
Do you guys have like a specific memory of like going through the video store and like finding a movie that like really changed you, like really changed your life, or like opened your eyes to the possibilities of like filmmaking and cinematic language in general? It's a hard question, but like I know it's video stores were discovery, and like you were either shepherded through or the shelves in like your local store, like oh my god, what is this? I've never heard of this Italian film before.
I mean, I remember the first, rather my earliest memory of going into a video store and just like picking a movie that, not something that was recommended to me, just something I was browsing the boxes and what jumped out to me. I remember I was probably 4 or 5 years old. I'm in the video store and I'm just like browsing the aisles, and I remember the tape that I picked up, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, which I don't know why my mother
amazing
allowed me to rent
shout
this
out
thing.
to your
really,
mom.
like, there was this is shout out to completely negligent parenting, but it's one of those things where it's just like, I feel like in that moment, like my 4 or 5 year old brain, like that's sort of like the beginning of everything, for better or worse. I might argue worse, but it's just like, I feel like that's like the beginning of me just becoming like kind of like the true freak of just like, well, I'm going to rent whatever I want and let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think for me, like, I don't really have a good answer for this. It just almost feels like I had too many of those moments for any one of them to make an impression. But my renting at a TLA when I was in late high school and then coming home from college was very just systematic, where I would work my way through a director's section. But the thing about Kim's that I loved as a customer, and I loved helping people with this when I worked there, is, there's this very funny thing that people can't even put their finger on anymore, of having to walk up to the counter and say, do you have X? Right? Like, looking something up didn't exist. You had no database at your fingertips. And now, of course, in the stores in LA, I'm sure this is the same way, but like, I just remember like, I know I want this thing, but I don't know where it would be. And then they tell you where it is, and you're like, oh, I wouldn't have looked for that there. And I remember, like, because I was so pretentious at the time, and I was just like, I would see so many repertory films at my Kim's customer and employee era, and then you'd want to continue that repertory viewing at home. You'd want to like watch the movies that the theater didn't play. And I just remember like Kim's had like the 30 Godard films that were just simply unseeable in the mid 2000s, right? Like Criterion at the time had even put out like everything up to 1968. And then there's like 35 years of his output that's like spotty at best. But I just remember being like, wait, like I think it's cool that Film Forum played a new print of Contempt, but now I'm here at Kim's and they have Nouvelle Vague or whatever the other title, Every Man for Himself. And like, you're just like, I can't believe that these are just sitting here, and they were all bootleg dubs of tapes with Xeroxed artificial eye papers. So, if you can picture the artificial eye, I think they even maintained the same aesthetic for their DVDs. Having that, it was so identifiable as like, this is just a bootleg, and the paper that they Xeroxed is so flimsy, but they have it. And I must possess it even briefly, because this is not going to play. This was never even released in America. And that was so fun just to be like, I found it. Like these movies that are now classics, like Criterion 4Ks, these Celine and Julie Go Boatings and these Jacques Rivette films. Like, there didn't used to be a single Jacques Rivette film other than The Nun that was like easily accessible. And the New Yorker 2-tape set of Celine and Julie was out of print, no DVD. You couldn't find that. Even at a TLA might not have that, but Kim's had it, and they had 5 other Rivette films, and this is like the 2000s where no one had seen any of that stuff unless you had access to a place with the bootlegs.
I think we really, like my generation and below, really take accessibility for granted, because we feel like we have everything at our fingertips. Like at any moment you could just like look up a movie and it's probably on XYZ streaming, and you could just like watch 15 minutes of it, and et cetera, et cetera. But there are a lot of movies that are still stuck on VHS. And like when we were doing the Video Archives podcast, it's really weird to me when I'm watching a movie and I'm like, this is Steel. It's a Fawcett Majors production. It was like a pretty decently sized movie at the time. Why is it only on VHS? Why can I not get it literally anywhere else?
That's so crucial. And obviously Clyde probably knows about like scouring for like, can we find this? Where have they remastered this? But it goes without saying that, how many tapes have you watched, or do you guys have from that collection that you watched the tape and it's clearly a film print put onto a tape?
All of them are film prints, basically, except for the ones that Quentin has had either recorded with him and my dad, or like they've recorded it off the TV later in life. They're all film prints.
Right, but yeah, like these. But, like tapes, because sometimes on old tapes, you would even see like real changes.
You can see the real changes. You can see the cigarette burns. You can see the marks.
Because that's, there was just a technological way of, what would now be importing a file into a computer, of just putting a print onto a video master and then duplicating it for sale. And every generation removed from that, how many movies that were on tape? Okay, almost all of them, I guess, that someone had a print of, within reason. And then how many of those was it able to clean it up for a DVD and who cared to do it, and then how many of those can you do a Blu-ray, how many of those can do a 4K. The number keeps going down, and things just keep disappearing, and that's obviously bad, but it is fascinating. Like, I was just out at annual VHS Fest at the Mahoning Drive-In, which I feel like is something you would
those
probably
guys
get a
are
kick out of.
awesome. Those guys, I haven't been, but those guys are awesome.
Yeah, it's always a fun time. And if I lay my hands on something that costs a little bit more than I think, I of course have to look it up, and then sure enough, I'm like, yep, there's no other way to get this, so I have no choice but to buy it.
Yeah, there's a few tapes in my collection that I'm like, I will never let go of you because I love you so much. And even, it's funny though, like, even if Steel is my example, if Steel got a 4K, 6K, 8K, whatever K we're on now, release, would I give up my tape? Would I replace my thing in my collection? No, because like now I have sentimental value. I have like that Dirty Hands movie, and we covered it on the podcast. My dad, I bought a $1 promotional tape of it, and my dad drew me a cover, and later I got the Wizard Home Video version, and I was like, I'll sell that. I have like my perfect unique tape. It's very sentimental to me.
Yeah, mileage may vary on this. I'm of the same opinion that like some stuff I don't care how much it's remastered. I just want it the way I wanted it when I was 12 years old.
Clyde, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I think home video is great right now. I mean, I feel like we're truly in a golden era at this point, where it seems that like all the good and reputable films have made it to nice transfers, and now we're just getting like absolute dreck coming out in 4K, like the movies that no one was asking for. Like, this is a real prime time for me to get like a nice Blu-ray of Enemy Territory.
I love
I'm
Enemy
all
Territory.
in.
Enemy Territory is fantastic. Enemy
it was
Territory
great.
is great.
Great
Oh my
movie.
God, I didn't know that was getting a really. But also, it's funny. I actually don't own a DVD player or like an actual TV at my house. I just have like a VCR combo, and then I go to my parents. To watch TV, like if I want to, or like a DVD together. Like we do it together.
Why
It's
don't you
funny,
want this?
I don't know. I moved into an apartment that just like didn't have a good spot to like hang up a flat screen. And then I was like, well, I have a combo and I have all these tapes, and they're all movies I've never seen before. So essentially I'm kind of getting to watch movies for like $1 or for free. So why not just like work through a collection? I inherited Matt Landsman purchased like a lot of like 400 tapes, and he kept like 30 to sell to make back his money, and then gave me 350 tapes. I've never seen any of these movies. I get to watch them for free. I just watch one a night, and I just pop it on, and who knows what I'll find. It's kind of exciting for me.
I mean, I love this sort of like choose your own adventure element of like how one consumes movies, or like how like their journey through film history.
It's completely
That's
different.
cool.
Of course, I have things I'm
into it.
interested in, like Ken Russell. I love Ken Russell. He's one of my favorite directors. When I
Sure.
was watching his movies, I tracked down all of his stuff on DVD to like watch, like even his BBC specials and like the planets and whatever.
Have you ever seen the music video he directed for his lawyer?
Which one is that? Because he did 2 or 3, I think, music videos.
I think it's Dancing for Justice, right? That's the one he directed for his lawyer, where it's like, I think it's Ken Russell is in it, but it's all about like escaping from Sing Sing.
I need to look this up after.
Pretty good. The best way to pay your legal fees is to direct a music video for your lawyer.
I like that. I mean, he was wild like that, though. Like A Kitten for Hitler, you can find his very last movie online. It's a short film, just like floating around out there. It's fascinating to watch his life evolve. But
that's the kind of thing where like I can't even tell you how many times at Kim's someone would come in and say, "Do you have The Devils?" Because you would know your only chance of tracking that down is in a store like ours.
yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, it's in the Ken Russell section. And then 4 out of 5 times the response is he has a whole section. Because to most people, it's Altered States and Tommy.
And The Devils, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, no, we also have this old tape of The Boyfriend. And
We have Boyfriend, Women in Love, Salome's Last Dance,
I guess
Gothic.
people always knew Women in Love.
Yeah,
I forgot about
but
that.
like-
But yeah, and Gothic was always around. But you know what I mean? Like, there's just so much more stuff that without that categorization, you might not put these movies under the same authorship, but then it turns out they are, and then you just kind of, you're off to the races. And this was always part of it. And obviously you're describing what we loved always, and doing this kind of re-archiving down at Kim's and putting, now we have about 4,000 videos out on the floor for rental at the Alamo for free. At least like 3,000 of which we can guarantee are not on streaming or Blu-ray or accessible any other way. Yeah, how many times am I down there doing the work and I just lay hands on a tape that I'm like, what the hell is this? And then it gets watched within a week instead of the 2,000 movies that I've been meaning to see for the last 15 years of my life. Some like nothing 90s thriller that I'm just like, I'm experiencing right now the feeling of finding this at the store on a Friday night. We always did our Kim's archiving on Fridays. It's Friday. I want to take this home and watch it now. Forget about all these classics that I've been meaning to catch up on now that they're accessible.
Honestly, I love that, because that's kind of how I feel. Like when I go to the video store and I'm looking for like $1 tapes and I'm looking at covers and I'm like, I've never heard of this movie. I don't know who these people are. And then they become the best movie you've ever seen.
But this is something that I love when, whenever you guys, you end up like kind of, you look at like the program of any random Video Archives episode, and it's like a Clint Eastwood movie, something that's like an irrelevant piece of shit that like no one has access to, and then like a political thriller from the 70s starring
That's
James
like the
Coburn.
exact way to put it. That's like that's our 3 movies.
But like that is for all of us, like, you would seldom, certainly if you were setting off for the video store on a Friday night, if you're me or Clyde, and maybe you, age depending, like I wouldn't go to Kim's or TLA and get one movie. If it's Friday, I would get 3. Typically, most places would have like a 3-for-2 deal. Certainly TLA did growing up, so I would never leave with less than 3. And when I watch, the episodes come out, your guys, the pairings, it's always like, well, I don't want to get 3 of the same thing. I have my like movie star programmer. Now I need to like go get something that's like completely irrelevant random dreck that just feels like it'll be a nice little palate cleanser after my main event. And then like maybe one other thing I'm here to like cross some classic off my list while I'm at it. And that level of like, I'm curating my own little stack to take home, that was everything to me. And it's funny when you guys put groupings together like that, which is to say like completely random and based on nothing other than
Exactly.
impulse.
That's pretty much how Quentin always does it. So that's actually all the time that we have for today. But Alex and Clyde, do you guys have any final thoughts that you want to share with the audience?
All I can say, other than that, I hope people find Videoheaven, which we'll address when you ask if there's anything else to plug, perhaps. Like the final thoughts to me are like, if these things are around you, if you are lucky enough to have access to a store or a micro cinema or a great revival house, or even if you don't, even if you're just browsing Vinegar Syndrome releases, Severin, Criterion, like, do not take for granted that these things exist right now just because they're like kind of clicking along at what seems like a pretty solid clip. Don't take for granted that these companies are going to be around forever. If you're interested in this stuff, like don't intend to get into these things. Get into them now. Like something you love might just disappear as an entire industry. And how many of us, older than you, stopped going to video stores because, as we show in Videoheaven, they started getting kind of crappy and depressing. Well, we stopped going and then they weren't there anymore. And the only thing I can final thought is like, if something's around, like just get in on it, because who knows?
Clyde, do you have anything you want to add?
I have one last thought, but I don't even know how relevant it is. I was thinking about, I was thinking about, the way that like in the 90s that Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, like corporate video stores took over, and like mom and pops go out of business, and then we're left with Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, and then after that we're kind of just like left with nothing except like, if you're lucky, you live in these few pockets of the world that still have like some video stores, and then you treasure them. I think for me the biggest surprise was when I went back to Alaska in 2016. It was the last time I went to my parents' place before they sold the house that I grew up in, and I was driving back into town, and I was absolutely shocked to see that the Blockbuster that I grew up going to was still open. That like it somehow in 2016 Sold Out in Alaska had one of the 10 last blockbusters in the world. And I guess the thought that I'm getting at is that it's very weird how at a certain point, like, the enemy becomes the only thing left, and then you mourn that too. So to second Alex's thought of just, appreciate what you've got, even if it was the enemy, and then you realize this is sort of the only thing left, like, take advantage.
Thanks, guys, for coming on to the show. So I know that if you're in the Los Angeles area, Videoheaven is playing at Vidiot's on August 6th. But is there anything else about Videoheaven you guys want to share? I know at the Ojai Playhouse, they're going to play it.
Yeah, so I'll be there for 3 days of screenings. The 6th is at Vidiot's, and the 7th is at Videotech in Pasadena, which is a micro
I
cinema.
love those guys. Those guys are awesome.
That's a great store. And then the 8th, it will be playing at the Los Feliz 3. We have 3 days in a row of Los Angeles screenings. We made this essay film about video stores as a way of saying, whether you haven't done it for years or never done it, you can watch our film and spend 3 hours in a video store. And we examine through film clips and occasionally a news report, such as the Reservoir Dogs Video Archives release party news report, the complete cultural history of video stores as physical spaces, which is now largely only accessible to people by watching one of our 150 films or shows that set a scene in a store. And the film will continue to sort of be around videoheaven.movie. Request a screening. If you have a micro cinema, if you have an art house, we'll play it literally anywhere. And then it'll have a 2-tape release, and then it'll be but it's not on streaming, honestly, until like probably next spring or so. So the hope is just that we can do these little bespoke screenings wherever people are interested, and just sitting with the video store narrative and looking around these wide shots and looking at every tape and every poster and savoring every detail of these bygone meccas.
Well, thanks again for coming on to the show, you guys. I really enjoyed perusing the video store for 3 hours, and it actually made me want to go back to the video store that I have in town and go peruse the shelves and like chat with everyone. But thanks again for coming on the show. I'm Gala Avery, and this has been The Gala Show. The Gala Show is brought to you by Avery.com. This episode was executive produced by Roger Avery and produced by Gala Avery. Music composed by Andy Milburn. Additional sound mixing by Eric Clapp. As always, I'm your host, Gala Avery. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved. Despite me sharing the same last name with this charity, I don't have any affiliation with it, besides the fact that the issue is very near and dear to my heart. Did you know that in the United States, 2.7 million children currently have a parent in prison, and it's estimated that 10 million children have experienced parental incarceration at some point in their lives? I was one of these kids, and as an adult, I am really grateful to be able to give back to Project Avery. Their mission is to build leadership from within by supporting community through programs such as mentoring and outdoor education, and also to remove the stigma surrounding having a parent that's incarcerated. You don't have to feel alone. If you know a kid who could use these resources or would like to donate money or time to the charity, please go to Project Avery, that's AVARY.org, to check out what this amazing charity is all about. Again, that's projectavery.org. Thank you guys from the bottom of my heart.